Star Wars only. I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
The next Star Wars film comes out in 2022, and the future of Star Wars is always in question on what's next, what's the plan going into the future. Well, it seems like they actually have, in my opinion, a pretty solid plan, and this is coming from MakingStarWars.net Jason Ward, who always has a lot of very credible sources. He talks about how he has sources that are saying that the next Star Wars saga is going to take place during an era called the High Republic era. Not the Old Republic, the High Republic. Now that sounds fun. An entire republic that's just smoking weed all the time? I'm playing. But it's set 400 years before the Skywalker saga. Not 420 years like it should be, but 400 years. During a time where the Sith rule of two has already been established by Darth Bane, where Yoda is a Jedi, but he's probably not the Jedi Grand Master, because he's probably like 500 years old at this point. And it says that these new films will not make up a trilogy, but rather a series of films which will be released in the same story era and interconnect. This was supposedly what David Benioff and D.B. Weiss were doing when they were trying to make their series of Star Wars films before they went off and did their Netflix deal, and it says that this method of storytelling was supposed to apply to the Star Wars story films, like, Solo, Star Wars story, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, but they never got a chance to interconnect the two stories that they told with more material. And he talks about another website that actually had a pretty good scoop a few months back, saying that how Project Luminous, which is a book, or actually we don't even really know what it is. I assumed it was a book because there's a lot of Star Wars authors that are working on it, but it's going to kick off with a video game from EA in the year 2021. Now, on the channel, we have talked about this in the past, on how the next Star Wars game is supposed to come out this year, and then this is going to be the one worked on from EA Vancouver, but likely we're getting the new Star Wars game, the Skywalker Saga, this year, and another one from EA Vancouver or someone at EA, like Respawn Entertainment, next year in 2021. That's supposed to kick off the Project Luminous storyline, and that the stories are going to be about Jedi exploring the unknown regions of the Star Wars universe. And I like that, because apparently they're supposed to run into like Sith gods or something like that, and other dark creatures. I mean, the unknown regions are mysterious, and that's what makes it so intriguing to explore that. And I like the idea of Jedi going to explore the unknown regions and learning more about the Force, because it just sounds intriguing. It sounds like an actual adventure that would be based in the Star Wars universe. It's not about the grand fate of the galaxy and whatnot. It just sounds fun. I'm up for that. This also means, though, that if we're getting a video game that starts in this new era of Star Wars, the High Republic era, if you will, if this new game starts that storyline of just Jedi going to explore the unknown regions, and that's in 2021, and then in 2022 we get a movie about the High Republic. Maybe it's the start of not a trilogy, but a series, because we still have a lot of films that could come out. It could be a new trilogy, but I think that's a great way to segue in to a brand new era in Star Wars, because this would be something that we haven't explored in the new canon. That's one of the big things that I've been personally frustrated with in the new Star Wars canon, is that it's always been between mostly episodes 3 and 4, that 19-year gap. We have so many books and stories that have covered that, and now we finally get something like The Mandalorian, a show taking place between episodes 6 and 7, but we haven't really gotten anything before episode 1. And I want something like that. I wouldn't even mind something between episodes 1 and 2, because we've done so much between episodes 2 and 3 and the prequels, going before episode 1, 400 years before episode 1, and taking place where the Republic is at its highest. The Sith rule of two is already established. Maybe we could touch on that a little bit. It would be interesting to see the Sith from 400 years ago, and kind of how that dynasty of Sith has kind of evolved, see where they're at in this point of the universe. I like it. I think this is proper storytelling. I think it's proper planning if they're doing this way, where 2021 Star Wars video game is in this era, and it kind of sets the tone for what to expect. And then the 2022 Star Wars film that comes out in December is going to be about this era, and it's gonna start either a new storyline or a new trilogy, because then a few years later we can get a second film in the trilogy, a few years later we can get a third film in the trilogy, or maybe the 2022 film just kind of is a story in that era of Star Wars to get us familiar with it, and then later we get a trilogy. So we'd have 4 films set in that era, but they're not all connected by story. This one's just kind of in a way, I guess you could say, a prequel to that trilogy. I really like this concept. I'm actually kind of excited for it. I think this is great because I think this means they've been planning it for a while. Lucasfilm has said that once they take this break from Star Wars Episode 9, after Star Wars Episode 9 comes out, they're actually going to plan out the future of Star Wars. I think if this is the route they're going, this is a good route to go. Instead of just saying, you get a trilogy, and make it the way you want, let's explore the origins of the Jedi. I don't mind actually just having Jedi go on adventures and do what Jedi do and keep the peace. One thing I've said that has frustrated me with the expanded universe books and some of the stories that we get, like in the Clone Wars or in just in general the Jedi story and the Skywalker saga, is that it's always the fate of the universe is at hand and the galaxy's crumbling and the Jedi Order is completely demolished or corrupt and everything. Why don't we just get stories of the Jedi doing what Jedi are supposed to do? If you look at the original trilogy and you compare it to the prequel trilogy, the Jedi sound completely and do completely different things. The Jedi are awful in the prequel trilogy. They're just stupid. I mean, they really are. In the original trilogy, the Jedi sound so mystical and pure good and everything you'd want to be as a hero. The sequel trilogy basically spent the entire time bashing the Jedi and saying that they're completely trash. And it's like, hey, that's cool and all, but I would really like to see the Jedi do some good for once. So I think this is the opportunity to do that. I think this is the opportunity to show the Jedi in this video game that they're talking about, possibly exploring the unknown regions, keeping peace, and learning about the Force, and maybe in the movies doing that. Maybe in the movies it's just the Jedi going on a mission and keeping the peace of the universe. I love it. I love this concept. I love this idea. I do hope it happens. I hope they execute it properly. Because a big problem that we've had since Disney has bought Star Wars is a lack of proper planning. Is that they've been rushing out these films so much, it got to a point where Kathleen Kennedy had to tell Bob Iger, hey, we need to slow down. We need to take a break. And I'm glad she did that. Because if she did, and this is going to be the result of slowing down the films, I'm all for it. They made a good move. So far, if what is said here is to be true, I'm happy. I'm happy with the future of Star Wars, and I think this will be a good decade for Star Wars content if it's planned out like this. Because if you're interconnecting stories with video games and books and movies like this, it can be a really good time to be a Star Wars fan. But tell me your thoughts below. What do you guys think about a potential new film in the High Republic era, a new series of films in the High Republic era, including a video game coming out in 2021? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm Star Wars Only. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go check out the article on makingstarwars.net from Jason Ward. They are very credible people. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll see you all next time, and may the Force be with you always.